Hola amigos y bienvenidos a una presentación breve sobre la acentuación en español. Having made it this far in your Spanish studies, I'm sure that you've had some moments of perhaps frustration or humility in dealing with written accent marks. And those who ask me early on in Spanish 101, what do I do about accent marks? How do I remember where to put them? I just always have to tell people at that point, you're going to have to memorize it for now and just learn where they go. But the truth is that there's more to the story. And at this point, you're ready for more of the truth about los acentos en español. The rules are actually pretty simple, and I think they'll help you tremendously and give you some insights about pronunciation as well. So here are the basics about acentuación en español, lo fundamental. We have a couple of rules that govern how accents work in Spanish. And you need to keep in mind that every word has a stress somewhere. Even if there's not a written stress, there is a stress when you pronounce the word. So look here at rule number 1. If a word ends in a vowel N or S, and by the way, that's a lot of words in Espanol. If a word ends in a vowel N or S, the spoken stress falls on the second to last syllable, as in medicina, hombre, acuesta. All three of these words are words that end in a vowel, or N or S, and the spoken stress falls on the second to last syllable. That's a rule in Spanish. That's just the way it works. So now you know rule number 1. Rule number 2. If a word ends in a consonant other than N or S, that's all the other words, by the way, that weren't addressed with rule number 1. If a word ends in a consonant other than N or S, the spoken stress falls on the last syllable, as in final, estudiar, hospital. So these are 2 rules that it would be very helpful for you to memorize. Rule 1, what happens with words that end in a vowel N or S, that their spoken stress is on the second to last syllable. And now rule 2, that all the other words get the stress on the last syllable. So, when do we write in accents? Because on the 2 previous slides, there were no written accents, and I promised to help you here with accent marks. Well, here's the deal, clase. Usually, we write in accent marks when we have broken rules 1 and 2. So if you memorize those 2 rules that I just showed you, what you're keeping in mind is when those rules get broken, that's when you have to write in an accent mark. Look, for example, at the word lápiz. It ends in a Z, so it's a word that falls under rule 2 because it ends in a consonant other than N or S. So if you followed rule 2, it would be pronounced lápiz with the accent on the last syllable. But that's not how we say L-A-P-I-Z. We say lápiz with the accent on the A, and that's why we have to write it in, so people know to say lápiz. Let's let the word película. Película is a rule 1 word because it ends in a vowel. So if we followed rule 1, the stress should be on the second to last syllable, and we would say película. But that's not what we say. We say película. Since we've broken rule 1, we have to write in the accent mark and write it as película. Take a look at the word inglés. It's a rule 1 word because it ends in an S. So if there were no written accent mark on it, you would have to say English with the accent on the second to last syllable. But that's not what we say. We say inglés. The rule got broken. We write in the accent. Take a look at this final example. It ends in an L, so it's a rule 2 word. If there were no written accent mark on it, you'd follow rule 2 with the stress on the last syllable, and you'd say football. It's a very exciting word. It almost sounds kind of German. But what we say is football. So we have to write in the accent. We write in accents when we break rules 1 and 2. There are a few other times when we write in accent marks in Spanish. The most important time for you to think of is when we use written accents to clarify meaning and to indicate questioning words. And maybe you've encountered these already. I actually hope that you have, noting the difference between sí and si. They're pronounced the same way because there's only one syllable. There's only one syllable there to stress. But si with an accent means yes. Si without an accent means if. We have tu and tu for you and your. And hopefully you've noticed by now that questioning words in a question get an accent mark, as in que, como, cuando, donde, etc. Bien. So I hope that these rules have been helpful for you. I encourage you to look for these rules in action when you're working, when you're doing your exercises, when you're speaking and writing. And if you think you find exceptions, let me know. And I'm sure that I'll be able to explain it to you or show you a different aspect of the rules or that sort of thing. We'll wrap up with one light moment regarding la importancia de la tilde o el acento. Look at the difference here that a written accent mark makes. The difference between el bebé, as in wah, wah, and el bebe, the baby, versus he drinks. Big difference, ¿verdad? So where we put our accent marks really does matter, and hopefully this lesson will save you some time and energy and give you some enlightenment in dealing with this. ¿Vale? Muchas gracias, amigos. Hasta luego.